Do we have a lot to talk about or just what? I watched probably one of the best interviews I've seen all year or in recent years. It was on BWTM Sports and Gaming, where if you need a one-on-one on boxing, go check it out. Trainer Stacey McKinley was dropping bombs. Go check him out, Stacey McKinley. I've seen him on there before, but this time, he was giving up some serious game. Talked about how he and Emmanuel Stewart was close. He came from Ann Arbor and then went to Detroit. Emmanuel watched him in his first fight. Hadn't had any heavyweight fights. Guy caught him with a left hook. He went to his corner, asked, "What did he hit me with?" Guy said a left hook. He's like, okay. Went out there, adjusted. Think he came back the next round with a left hook of his own, came through with a straight right, knocked the guy out. Went to his corner and said, "Man, your eye is swollen." And the guy's corner said, "Man, get out of here." And Emmanuel Stewart said, "This was your first fight?" He's like, "Yeah, really." He's like, "Man, you got a different kind of power." So that after that, they linked up and he just learned a lot from Emmanuel Stewart. Now, anybody that studied under Emmanuel Stewart has to be a special person if they absorbed what he was teaching. Look at the different Sugar Hill was made with Tyson Fury. The fights Fury had with Wilder may have gone a little different had he stuck with Ben Davison. But that was just he was just saying so much. He talked about how Deontay Wilder, his corner didn't know what to tell him. He said, even the way he saw he was just hitting the pads with Malik, he said, you don't do that with a heavyweight. You do that with lightweights. The heavyweight's not going to be able to throw that many punches from round 1 to round 12. And he was talking about that Wilder has no defense. He said he would throw all them punches and then, he said he can't get out of the way of a jab. He said if Fury had jabbed more, he could have knocked him out earlier. He said Wilder throws all those punches and then doesn't know what to do after he throws them. He just stays right there. He said that Fury, one thing he noticed, by the way, Stacey McKinley trains a fighter by the name of Trevor Bryan, and he was saying that Bryan has one of the best jabs, but he's saying one thing he noticed that Fury wasn't doing so much in this fight with Wilder was that herky-jerky, where he's just constantly moving and flinching, and you don't know what's coming. So he said that's tough for any fighter to deal with, is that herky-jerky style. He talked about how he's the first person I've heard, he's the first person I've heard say this besides me. When the interviewer asked him who was the toughest puncher out of these group, he named Ernie Shavers, George Foreman, I believe Mike Tyson, and Deontay Wilder. He said, Wilder can punch, but it's who he's punching. He's punching B-level fighters. He couldn't have, would those punches he's thrown knocked out somebody like George Foreman? Of course not. And he said that Lennox Lewis was hitting people that had a high punch resistance. That's what I've been saying for years. It's not that Wilder's so devastating of a knockout puncher. It's who he's hitting. Who you hit makes all the difference. If you're not hitting Evander Holyfield back in the day, Ray Mercer, George Foreman, David Tua, if you're not hitting Ike Ibeabuchi, if you're not hitting those type of fighters, then I can't say you're one of the top fighters of punchers of all time. He was talking about how people like Joe Louis and Ernie Shavers could literally break your bones. He said they could crack your skull, break your jaw. He said Wilder's not breaking people's bones. He said they're talking about they heard something about George Foreman knocked out a cow once. And if you look at Foreman punch, it's believable. So much game, Stacey McKinley. He first was saying, I'm not going to tell Joshua how to beat Usyk. But he said there was a fighter named, hope I'm not saying his name wrong because I've heard of him for years. Something like Livingston Bramble or Brandel. He was saying how he asked Stacey, how do you beat a southpaw? And so Stacey was telling him, the cliche-ish thing, I believe, about how you keep your left foot on the outside of the southpaw's right foot. He's like, go check out my resume. He said, every southpaw that I fought, I knocked out. He said, check my resume. Every southpaw fight, I knocked out. Why? He said, I jumped on them early. I stayed in their face. I rushed them. He said, when you stay close to a southpaw, they're no longer a southpaw. They're just a regular fighter because you're so close. That's what I said AJ had to do with Usyk. I think he realizes that now. I'll talk about the interview that Joshua did with IFL TV later on, but that's what I was saying. You have to rush a southpaw, especially somebody like Usyk he's just all over the place. You don't know where he's going to be next. So hop on him, and then he ain't got nowhere to go. Same thing I said with before Fury beat Wilder. You got to crowd his space. He needs room to throw that big right. But other things Stacey McKinley was talking about, he was talking about how Joe Joyce, he said he got an offer early to fight Joe Joyce for his fight. He's like, nah. He said the thing about Emmanuel Stewart, he knew who to keep his fighters away. Like if he's bringing them up, he knew it's not good for my fighter to fight this guy right now. Like this might make my fighter look bad. So he was saying that they didn't want no parts of Joe Joyce because he had a lot to say about Daniel Dubois. The interviewer was talking about, he heard that Daniel Dubois had quit in sparring against Povetkin. And Stacey McKinley said, once a quitter, always a quitter. And he said he had a fighter one time that was in the ring in training, and the guy was just trying to get out the ring. He's like, I'm done. And Stacey's like, no, get back in the ring. He just wouldn't do it. So Stacey said, all right, get out the gym, get your flight ticket, get up out of here. I don't want to see you again. So he yelled at the guy. The guy got back in the ring. He said, I just needed him to finish that round because what you do in the gym is what you'll do in the ring. If you quit in the gym, you'll quit in the ring. Now, I gave Daniel Dubois the benefit of the doubt. I think he'll be back, but he says, once a quitter, always a quitter. If you quit in the gym, you'll quit in the ring. So it had me thinking. He was just, like I said, there were so many gems in that interview. I had to go back and watch it twice. He talked about Mike Tyson was the last heavyweight to use 8-ounce gloves. He said they changed them to 10-ounce gloves because of how hard Mike was hitting. I never knew that. He said, though, that Mike went to him and said, it don't matter, 8 ounce or 10, like I'm still going to knock people out. And he went through an interesting list of a face-off between him and Eddie Futch. Eddie Futch had a lot of the great fighters. They were comparing. He said he's the only trainer right now that could have compared fighters with Eddie Futch. Eddie Futch had Joe Frazier, Riddick Bowe. How am I forgetting the rest? But Stacey had Mike Tyson for a while. He had Shannon Briggs. He talked about how Shannon could really punch with the right hand. He said, I wish I had got to him earlier. He got to him later in his career. He said he just knew he had a kind of a personality like Ali. You kind of had to let him be free. And then he was restricted. So he said they didn't know how to handle him. But he named all the fighters he had compared with Eddie Futch, and it was a pretty good matchup. Oh my, you guys if you guys are true pugilist followers, you guys have to go check that out. I mean, it's just a must. If you want to get some true game, true gems, check them out. Let's see. What else was he talking about? Let's see. Talked about Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Joe Joyce, Wilder, his opponents. There was something he said. But he was just talking about how fighters nowadays are and how, he was saying that Emmanuel Stewart didn't even like training heavyweights before Lennox Lewis. He was saying because they hold too much and stuff. But after he got with Lewis, he started to like heavyweights. He said he and Emmanuel, when he was fighting, he said they travel the country in Emmanuel's old Cadillac, and you could visualize the stuff he was saying. I mean, this guy, Out of all the trainers that AJ visited when he came to America, this is the guy. He and James Ali Bashir is the guy that the guys that AJ should have gotten with. Now, on to the AJ interview with IFL TV. Now, I told you guys years ago, AJ had a street side to him, but it came out today, but it was a weird interview. It's like he was more irritated to me with the things people had been saying about him more than losing to Usyk. He was, irritated by that. He said he ain't losing no more fights. But he was kind of contradicting himself on one point. He said, I think he was referring to the Klitschko fight, how he knew he had to learn how to hit and not get hit. He said, I wouldn't have any brain cells left if I kept fighting that rough style. So that was kind of an admission that he was kind of gun shy and hesitant to get hit after that fight. He must have felt something he didn't like. Plus, his fight with Dillian was kind of rough. Even moments in the Dominique Brazil fight was kind of rough. And then later he said, boxing, as he put it, the sweet science isn't just to hit and not get hit. Sometimes you have to walk through punches. And I was like, wait, you just said that, I don't know, but it's like he wants to go back to the rough style. And I was just telling someone the other day that there was an old clip where he was fighting somebody and the ref grabbed his arm and he just yanked his arm away. And he said something about in a future fight, he may throw the ref to the ground. He was dropping F-bombs, flipping off people that said he shouldn't take the immediate rematch with Usyk. And it ain't that people are necessarily hating on you. I know I'm not. I'm like, AJ was my favorite fighter. He and Tyson Fury. But it's just people were saying he should take a tune-up just so if he has a new trainer, he can kind of gel with them, get his confidence back if he's lost any stuff like that. It's not saying that he can't win. It's just we thought that was best. Most fighters take a tune-up after a loss before they go in with the guy. But he was really offended. He seemed on edge. And at the end, I know he just came from Crenshaw or California, and he was talking about when he was growing up, he didn't follow actors, he didn't follow athletes. He watched people like Larry Hoover and Big Meech, and he was talking about taking it back to the streets. And I thought, this don't work against dudes from Ukraine. These dudes are G's. It's like, you think Usyk's gonna be scared because you watched Boys in the Hood when you was 10? I mean, it's gonna matter what you do in the ring. That could work against a lesser opponent, but someone seasoned and qualified like Usyk, who's had a huge amateur career with 300-some fights, you following Big Meech and Larry Hoover ain't going to apply in the ring. I mean, it sounds tough. It just ain't going to matter against this guy. You got to get in a trainer, and it sounded like he was just trying to take a tour and gather as much information as he could, but it sounds like he's keeping Rob McCracken. But he also said, this sounds like another contradiction, like he has to do his best for his career, and see if Rob McCracken wants to work with anybody else that he brings in. I guess he's saying if Rob doesn't, then maybe he'll move on. But it just seemed odd. He seemed on edge. And even at the end of that was at the end of the interview where he was talking about Larry Hoover and Big Meech. And when he was done, I thought he was joking at first, but he was looking serious. Even the interviewer was like, you all right? And then AJ got up and kind of played it off. But I just thought, some people say that's been the real AJ all along, and all the other philosophical talk was just the television version of AJ. But I look at it this way. Even if this was the real AJ, what made him bring it out this time? How come he stopped showing the television version, and how come he went to the street version? What did Usyk do to him to make him switch up and go into hood mode? It was just a weird interview to me. A lot of people are hyped up like, yeah, this is the AJ I want to see. Yeah, I like the fact that he's bothered, but it just seemed weird to me how bothered he was. It's like, and I'm like, if you're that bothered, bring in a new trainer, man. You got to bring a new trainer. And Stacey McKinley said one of the reasons he believes that no one's contacted him. I believe that the first interview he did with BWTM Sports, I believe someone sent it to AJ, but he believes the reason that AJ probably won't work with him is his connection to Don King. And he was saying how Don King, you can learn more from him in a little bit of time than anybody, the ins and outs, in the ring, outside of the ring. But if he got with Stacey McKinley, he would learn a whole bunch of things. He talked about, I think this is what I wanted to mention about Stacey McKinley. He said Ronnie Shields only worked with Mike Tyson for one fight, and he was in the corner the night Lewis fought Mike Tyson. And he said the round before it got stopped, he told Ronnie Shields, Mike's not responding to you. Let me take this round. And Ronnie's like, no, I got it. He's like, he's not responding to you. I know, Mike. Let me get this. He's like, no. So he said, if I had gotten that round, he said, I would have told him, don't throw any body punches. Just go straight to the head. He said, because I knew what was about to happen. I knew he was about to get stopped. So he's saying, like, pretty much just go all out. And he said, and if he went all out and it still didn't work, then he would have stopped the fight. But he said it could have worked, but he didn't do it. So, you know, man, it is just, you can hear, when you listen to other trainers talk, you can hear a difference. Like, you can really tell who knows what's going on. He knows, like I said about Emmanuel Stewart, he knows the psychology of a fighter. He knows what he's thinking. And he talked about how Malik Scott didn't know how to pace Deontay Wilder. Like I said, he didn't know how, he said heavyweights can't throw that many punches from round 1 to round 12. You got to keep them, you know, tell them when to hit the gas and when to back up. He said, now, Sugar Hill's corner, he said they knew not to panic when Tyson Fury went down because he had been down before. So they didn't panic like, oh, no, what to do. It's like, okay, we've been here before. You know what to do. Oh, man. If you guys need any types of pointers, what goes through a fighter's mind, what should happen in the corner during a rough fight, you got to listen to Stacey McKinley. He talked about that Ronnie Shields was a good fighter. He said Sugar Ray ducked him in the amateurs, and he talked about another fighter that was in the Kronk camp, named something Mays, I believe. But he said this guy was better than all of them, Hearns and everybody. He said he just didn't have the mindset. So he had the skills and talent, but like he would let outside things distract him and stuff like that. Boxing is so mental. People have no idea. They think you just go in there and throw punches like a tough man contest. No. Especially at the top level, it's like it's physical chess is what it is, but at the same time you can't overthink it, and that seemed like what Joshua was doing in the Usyk fight. You know, he has to go in there and rush him, even if he gets knocked out. That's his best chance. You're not gonna outbox Usyk. It's just not gonna happen. I've never seen Usyk even hurt, and Dillian White was talking about that. He thought AJ was stopped in the last round, but I don't know. But something about Dillian White. I saw an interview he did. He had like a muscle shirt on with his arms out. Didn't have any type of shoulder wraps or nothing. He's moving around fine. I'm like, dude, did you forget you just said your shoulder was injured? I can see why that Otto Wylene wants a independent doctor to check this dude out. It just sounded kind of suspect. I'm like, dude, how are you just moving like you just talk about your shoulder? But that's an odd situation. Anyway, like I said, check out the interview Stacey McKinley did with BWTM Boxing Sports and Game Boxing BWTM Sports and Gaming, I believe is the channel. And you won't regret it. Just soak up the game. Watch it a couple times like I did. And there's another one I have to watch again with James Ali Bashir where the title is something about Joshua should have visited him while he was here in America doing his tour. What other things was Joshua talking about? He just seemed real irritable and talking about how he lost a lot of respect for fighters and people that told him or were saying that he shouldn't take an immediate rematch. And now's not the time to get thin-skinned. I know everybody's got emotions and stuff, but as I've always said, don't keep some things to yourself. You don't want to reveal always what gets to you. When people find out what gets to you, they'll be like, oh, okay, I see what makes him tick. Another thing Stacey McKinley said when he's talking about Daniel Dubois, if his fighter was fighting Dubois, he said something like he would tell him to say something in his ear like, you quit before, you a little whatever, you about to quit again. So he was talking about, and that would make his mind weak right there. See, those are little tricks that a veteran trainer can teach you, not just physical, but things in the clinch, whisper in his ear, say something to mess his mind up. But, you know, you're not going to get that too much with trainers today. They'll just tell you, you know, go do your road work, do the fancy pad things for Instagram. You know, they're not going to give you that type of game. And Anthony Joshua, of course, you know, is with Ronnie Shields, Virgil Hunter, who trained Andre Ward. I wonder how that'll work out if he gets with Virgil Hill, because Andre Ward ain't had too much good to say about AJ. So we'll see how that works out. I wonder if even Andre Ward will try to give AJ some pointers. But what did you guys think of that AJ interview? I thought it was kind of weird. It just seemed strange. He just seemed different. It's good to see that he's hungry. People were questioning whether he's still hungry or not because he's made so many millions from the fight game. And he was saying how, you know, the money doesn't matter. He's still hungry. Maybe that's what he was trying to do. Maybe he was overdoing it to show people, hey, I still want this. That's why I went over to America and I'm, you know, trying to soak up game. Stacey McKinley also said Floyd Mayweather used to try that, go to different gyms, learn something from this trainer, learn something from that trainer, and then bring it back to his dad, who was his trainer. And Stacey said it don't work like that. And the interviewer was saying, yeah, it's kind of like your trainer before that will take that as disrespect. Like, what? You saying, like, I can't train you? You had to go learn from them. So I don't know how that's going to work. AJ still has to get someone in there. I say the top three, James Bashir or Tommy Brooks or Stacey McKinley, mix them around, whatever order. One of those three. I wouldn't necessarily go with Ronnie Shields or Virgil Hunter necessarily. I think Virgil would still be trying to teach Joshua how to box and stuff like that. And Stacey McKinley also said after that Livingston Bramble dude told him how to go in there and get close. That's how you knock out a southpaw. He said he met another guy like 10 years later, told him the same thing, and then he tried it and it worked. He's like, that's the best way to fight a southpaw. And think about it. If you're in the ring, and that's like I would say, you don't want to be thinking too much. So you know how hard it is to keep thinking and looking without your opponent noticing, okay, I got to keep my left foot on the outside of his right foot. It's easier to just rush the dude, keep your defense in, know how to block, stay close, you know, and be effective that way. That's why Derek Chisora was more effective in his fight with Usyk than AJ was, because he roughed him up. And if Chisora had the gas, he probably could have done more damage, but he got tired quick. So that's why Chisora was more effective. He just went in there and fought a street fight, basically. So AJ has to do the same, and he said he's going to take it back to the streets, but I probably wouldn't reveal my game plan this far in advance. Usyk has time to prepare. He's like, oh, okay, he's going to rush me. Got something for that. But what you guys think of the AJ interview with IFL TV? Go check it out. Definitely go check out Stacey McKinley's interview. He trained Tony Tucker, trained Mike Tyson, Shannon Briggs. He said that Emmanuel Stewart got a lot of his game from Joe Louis and someone else. But wow, I haven't enjoyed an interview like that in a long time. Anyway, this is the J. Roos Theory. Make sure to subscribe. Don't cost you nothing. Check out my other platform in WJ, the world's most dangerous boxing page. Thanks for watching. Yay, yay.
What's up, Fearless Nation? This is Stacey Dash, and if you're into heavyweight boxing, then you have to check out Jay's Theory. He covers everything inside the ring and outside the ring, completely unbiased. So subscribe today. Peace.